that's what we're going to try to do for the remaining days, to get you familiar with actually writing a lot of code, doing some front-end integration, and also trying to deploy to the internet computer. All right. There's a lot of concepts we haven't covered which are on the internet computer, but as you can see, it's 10 days. We can't cover everything, but at least the basics that can get you to actually build a full stack application we have tried to cover. So for the remaining days, we'll mostly be kind of mentorship sessions, was you will need to create like your own implement. I will go through with you an implementation, a front-end implementation, right? So you can see, and then you will need to create your own backend logic, and then try to do your own front-end integration. And that's how you actually learn how to do it, because there won't be enough time in the hackathon. I mean, it's like 2 days or so. Of course, you keep building it afterwards, but for those 2 days, you might want to actually build something that have both front end and back end. So you need to be able to do that. So I will go through with you a front end implementation which is already implemented, so that you go through it and understand its path. I actually go through 2 different types of front ends so that you can see. And then after that, you try to create your own backend and try to do an integration with front end. That will be one of the main tasks for this week. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, so we've been working with the users with a simple backend application for users, right? For creating users in the past few days, right? And let me try to open backend. This is the kind of stuff we've been working with, right? Basically creating users, CRUD, or simple users function. So this code I'll be showing you the front end integration is just the front end for that user, for this user's backend. Okay, so it's built in React, and I would encourage those who want to do front end here to kind of go with the React, because like these examples we have here, and also the help you might need in the hackathon and in the days coming, it will be better if it's like in React. So you can do with vanilla JavaScript, with vanilla HTML and JavaScript, right? Or any other framework, but you won't get as much support is even on the on the Internet Computer Forum for some other configurations, but not usually it's React that is kind of popular. You understand? So it will be good for you if you try to learn React, and then you can also easily reference these videos, this example. Okay. Yeah, but if you really can't, like it's really difficult for you, we can help you out in trying to configure, what is it, in HTML and CSS, but there will be an extra level of difficulty because you won't have really a lot of references and examples. So if you can, and knowing React is a very valuable skill. So it's also a good opportunity for you if you didn't know React to try to maybe watch a crash course on React and then get to use to how it works, and then try to figure out what we are doing here with React, and you would have learned a very valuable skill in the field of web development. React is very valuable. So yeah, in these examples, we'll be using React. So here I have there are two examples in these templates with React with the TypeScript and React with the JavaScript. These two examples. So if you don't know TypeScript, you can use this one with JavaScript. Myself, I prefer TypeScript because it just kind of makes life easier for me. I mean, like you can be able to actually set the interface. You'll be able to like see the interface for your canister, right? And to really know the expected types, and it will be kind of difficult for you to mess up the expected inputs and or outputs of your canister, right? If you're using TypeScript, if you're using JavaScript, it will be cool. You can know that, but you'll be literally checking, like, is this correct? I mean, compile time errors are always better than runtime errors. That's basically what I'm saying. So yeah, there's JavaScript example and there's TypeScript example. So we have our users backend here, and then we have our users front end. Let's take a look into it. Okay, and then here we have the DFX JSON with the internet identity. Some of you may have been talking about internet identity and whatnot. Yeah, you also see how to integrate internet identity in this tab, right? So these are the canisters we have here: internet identity, backend, and front end. And then if you open source, and then you open the front end, this is where, okay, so one more thing, as you can see, in the root directory, the package JSON here, it's a workspace. So it's pointing to the user's workspace, this one in here. So if you're familiar with like this issue of workspace, as you can see from here, you can actually see that we can actually have like two front ends in the same project. But anyway, it's nothing important at this point. But yeah, we are pointing here to the workspace for the user's front end. And then here in the user's front end, since it's a workspace, it has its own package JSON, as you can see, this one. Yeah, and its dependencies here, the agent, candidate, and whatnot. And we have the index HTML. Thinking here, let's call it users tab. Okay, and this one is using Tailwind CSS for styling. Tailwind CSS is a wonderful library that makes it easy to write CSS without actually writing CSS, and it's fast. So yeah, but there are so many other styling libraries you can use out there. But if you'd like to try Tailwind CSS, it's also wonderful. It's my favorite personally. It's really easy. You don't have to write a lot of raw or vanilla CSS. I hate CSS. It's very frustrating. Anyway, so styling, we're using Tailwind CSS in this particular example. And then in the source, that's where we now have the React configuration. That's where we now have the components, I mean to say, right? Something is not right. I don't know why. Let's pick this Django. Anyway, let's kind of ignore this for a moment. Okay. So we have the app TSX, then we have the main TSX with this configuration, with this setup or React tab, and then we have the context. I think for this particular tab, that's kind of the part which can be a bit complex to some. Okay, let's see. Okay. This context file, use context, is one that can be a bit complex to some, but this is basically where we are doing some of the basic setups, like initializing our actor or our canister actor in the front end so that we can be able to call them in the back end and also authenticate them in the back end, right? So here, let me try to go bit by bit. So here we're just we created this network variable. So basically what this is doing is it's checking in the environment, this environment .env, right? It's checking for TFX network. Checking for TFX network. Check if it's local or it's on the live network. Or it's on the live network, right? So this will help because in some cases, if you're running locally, some of the things will be, if you're running in local environment, you need some different configurations. You need you need a local internet identity, and you also need to point to like the local canisters, that type of thing, right? So that's what this is doing here. And then when the network is on IC, you also need the live internet identity and what's not. So that's what's happening here. And then this is the local host. So this is the address for the local internet computer replica. And this is the live internet computer URL, right? So that's what these configurations are. And then here, this is the context for application, the one we want to be available in all the components in our React project, right? So sometimes passing stuff as props is tedious, so context is a better solution for this. So here we're just we're just declaring the interface for the context. So we have an is authenticated check to check if the user is authenticated. And then we have the backend actor. This will be the backend actor instance, the one we will be calling, will be used to call the functions in our backend. You know, we have these functions like we have these users functions here, right? Create user, get user, or etc. So we will be calling those functions from this backend actor. And then the identity, we would also like to have the internet identity, the identity across our application, and the login and logout function as well. We also need to have that. All right, and then here we are initializing. So the initial context for this type, it will be no values, as you can see here. It will be no values. But this is because this is what TypeScript in React, in JavaScript, you won't be having this, as you see in the React example. But yeah, and then here we are we're setting them to null for the initial values. And here we are creating some default options. You don't need to worry much about these. You can just have them as configurations. And then on this part, that's where we are configuring like the internet identity. As you can see, this application will be having internet identity. I will show you soon. And I think it's better for me to deploy this and demonstrate how it works first, and then I go back to the code, and then it will make sense to explain some of the stuff. Let me deploy it like this. Okay, I'll do. Okay, so one thing before I proceed here, we've deployed our canisters, right? And then here we have the front end canister and the backend canister. Usually, you can use this URL and it can totally work, right? Like you can log in. So this is how the DApp functions. And then you log in with the local internet identity, and then it works. So remember, we're creating users and what's not. So here, this application is just letting us create a user, passing the email, the age, and then you save user. Okay, it got an error somehow. Failed to fetch. I'm not sure. Okay, let's see if this URL was the best thing. Let's wait a second. Okay, this one is working. Okay, so if you're on Brave browser, use this top URL and not this one. But anyway, I'm going to explain exactly what I really wanted to explain. So anyway, I saved the user and you can see the user is being fetched here. I'll save another one. I'll save another one. And then, yeah. So now I have these two users I created. So basically, this is what you want an integration to work to look like, or to work like. A user enters some data, the data gets saved in the backend, and then you fetch the data. That's basically the essentials for a full integration, right? So anyway, what I wanted to explain at this point is you can use this URL, right? But the problem is as we are developing, especially for the front end, this is for the front end, right? You might make changes, quick changes in your front end, right? And if you are using you might want to make quick changes, right? And if you're using this URL, for you to be able to see those changes, you will need to deploy the canister again. So you need to deploy the canister again. So the solution is really to use. We are using Vite in this project. So it will have live updates to your code. So for local development, really, you don't need to use this URL. You can just do npm start, and this will be, and this will be you can use npm start like this, and you can quickly see your changes right away as you have them, without the need to deploy something, right? Without the need to deploy. Just forgive me, this thing. Without the need to deploy. So let's see. Where is background blue? Okay, this button. Let's give it a background of black. Black. It's now black, but on these URLs, it's still blue. It's because for me to see those changes, I need to deploy. So you can imagine how slow this is, especially on styling. You want to style something and see the effects right away. So for front end, for local development, you just do npm start or npm run dev, depending on whatever the you are using, right? Depending on it, whatever your configuration is. So that's another important part here, and we are back to blue before you know it. So yeah, important point to keep in mind for front-end integration. You can only deploy live if you really want to test something that is only available on like the internet computer. So if you deploy live, if you deploy, I mean, you can actually see what it would look like on the actual internet computer if you deploy locally live. So there's that. So anyway, that's our application, basically creating users as we were doing on the candid interface, but here we're doing it on the front end. And this is the configuration. Forgive me, I'll fix my editor here so that it does the auto detection, but I'm not sure why it's not in this project. So I will need to figure it out, but just bear with me as I'm constantly updating this. And I'm sure in your IDEs you won't be having this problem. It's just something I need to fix on my side here. So anyway, that's the configuration we are having here. And then for this part, we are checking network. If the network is IC or if it's live, we would like to have the live internet computer URL. This is the one, the live internet computer URL. This one. Right, this one. And if it's local, we want to use the local internet identity. So we are just importing the internet identity canister ID, as you can see here. Where is it? Canister ID is canister ID, right? So that's the one we are pasting here. And then here we have this used auth client. So here, that's where we are kind of actually setting up the variables for is authenticated, for the backend actor, identity, and then initializing them. As you can see here, it's authenticated, and then the initial value will be a no, the actor, the initial value will be a no value. And here we have that login function. Here we have a use effect that will constantly updating the client if there is any changes. There we have the logout function. Let me put it on the top, close to the other login function, so it makes more sense. And then here in this update client, that's where we are initializing. So you can see here we are setting is authenticated to this client that is being passed from here. You can get look into this deeper and ask questions later, but for now this is the basic configuration. You can try to make sense of it later. And then here the identity, then here we have the agent, and then here we have the fetch root key. We're doing agent.fetch root key. So this part is very important because it can pose serious security threat if it has not been handled correctly. So this agent.fetch root key, it should only happen if the environmental is local and not on the live network, because what it does, it's like it fetches the threshold key for the threshold key for the subnet which the canister is running. All right, so for a local environment, that key is always like different for every instance of your deployment or instance of you doing GFX start clean background, that thing, right? So that root key is always different. So the agent need to fetch it. If you don't do this, you will get an error. Let's see if we will get an error right away. Exactly, signature verification failed, right? You will get this error. Invalid certificate, signature verification failed. It's because it doesn't have that threshold key, public key for the subnet it's running on, which is our local replica. But if we put it back, the error is gone. It's now fixed. But this shouldn't run on the live network, because if you allow this code to run on the live network, anyone who knows JavaScript, because as you might know, all the front-end code can be manipulated in the browser. JavaScript can be manipulated in the browser. So that's also why it's things like API keys and what's not shouldn't be stored in the client in the front end, because it can be easily manipulated. Especially if you're familiar with basic Web2 practices, always store API keys like in the server, in the backend, and then use them from there and not in the front end. So trying to say, if you leave this to run in the front end, in the live network, anyone can kind of manipulate your front end and then put their own uh, key, right, which your canister will access, and then they can, or bad things will happen from there. They can manipulate it in any way they would have liked, or maybe they'll kind of redirect it in some way, or whatever, any other intention the actor might have, right? So yeah, that's what it. Always make sure it's running in the your fetch root key on the local network only. So just this if check will suffice. And then here we are initializing our actor. So we're initializing our actor. We're setting up, we're putting in the service. This is to give it the interface so that we can know the functions we are calling. And then we pass in the agent. So this agent, when we are initializing this agent and passing in the identity, this is to make authenticated calls. If you remove this, your calls will be anonymous calls, right? So that's important if you want to have some authentication, some real authentication, or maybe to only allow certain users to call the functions, right? So that's what happening here. You pass in the agent, and then you pass in the canister ID, and then we set the backend actor to this backend actor, and then you return these values, and yeah, we'll do some other configurations here. As you can see, I think we're exporting the auth provider, and then we're exporting use auth, and then we set up in the, and then for this to be available in our project, in all our components, we need to wrap maybe like basically the app component, which is like holds almost all the components in our project. We'll wrap it in this auth provider, right? In this auth provider, so that we can be able to access these values here. So authenticated backend actor and what. So anyway, now in the app, that's where we have the logic. So you can see we are importing backend actor, login, logout is authenticated, and the identity. Here the identity is not working, so as well remove it. And then we have a users array. Here's a value for the form. This is now just JavaScript, TypeScript / JavaScript, right? You can make sense of this logic later on, but basically we are having some variables like the users, some value to know if we are saving, and then here we are having some form values, name, email, age, and here's the submit function. So we are setting up the user. We imported the user type from the declarations. So declarations are kind of important, are also important if you're using like TypeScript, because you can easily import your types. So you can see these declarations here. Let's open the user's backend. It's kind of this one. Yeah. It automatically like generates the TypeScript, the TypeScript version of your canister types, so you can easily import it in your front end and use them, and not recreate and not go through the trouble of recreating your types. So as you can see, I just imported this user from those from the backend. Again, I can do it, simply do it like this. Where is the user? It should give me a suggestion. Yeah, here. And then I import it. Yeah, and then here I'm giving in the type, the user type, and then I'm setting the user value. Then I call, and then here I call the backend actor. You can see I call the backend actor and then create, and then yeah, and then I pass in the user value. I call in the create user. And then here I'm just setting the values to initial values. And then I want to get the users soon after saving. That's basic logic happening here. And yeah, here we're using a use effect looking at is authenticated and backend actor. If you're authenticated and the backend actor has been initialized, would like to get users as well. Yeah, and this is just JSX. We have our form and JavaScript. So be sure to have a look at this. And then at the end of the day, we have this working. We have this working. Can add another user. And then save, and they are saved. So that's awesome. So that's front-end integration for you. Have a look at this example. Play around with it. So there are some different ways of going about this, as you will see in one of the projects. We would like you to kind of complete as well this auction up, right? So this I will send to you all the URLs to these repositories. So you have two main tasks for this. We have too many tasks for this week until the hackathon, right? Two main tasks. One is for you to create your own backend and then do a front-end integration, like following the guide we gave you. The example, we'll send you those examples so you can play around with them. And then second one is to complete this auction project. It have all the instructions to let you know what you need to implement and how to implement it, right? And this is the front end. This is the front end for the auction tab. So you see, okay, let me sign out. You can sign in again with internet identity. And then once you are signed in, you'll be able to see listed auctions, create new auctions, all right? So as you can see, it's giving an error, not yet implemented. So this is the, what is it? Where is it coming from exactly? So anyway, it's giving not yet implemented, its function, not yet implemented, new auction. So you see, you will need to create this to complete these functions so that you can create auction, you can see the listed auctions because it will fetch. It's also saying not yet implemented, no auction so far. Yeah. So again, it's a minimal implementation with internet identity and with internet identity and authentication, right? So those are the two tasks. I think the homeworks at this point, they are, we can say, not as important. So try to spend much of the time left to work on this. So I'll repeat. The first one is for you to create a unique canister of your own, and then try to do a front-end integration of your, following the examples we gave, and then to complete this auction tab and make it work. So you have a lot on your plate. So yeah, that's it. And this one, and as you can see, this one also has internet identity. So I can say the internet identity on this one is kind of minimal. I mean, the integration works, but as you can see, like they didn't go through the trouble of trying to create what is it, the context, right? So this example here is just using the internet in a single file, as you can see here. So what I can say about this implementation and the other one on our user tab, this one is like for a simple setup, right? Where you just want this to be like in one file. But in a case where your application is kind of big and you have a lot of components, and you don't want to find yourself repeating a lot of stuff, this will be the way to go, because if you set everything in the context, you know it will be available to all the components in the project. You see, that's the importance of context. You can set one thing in one file, and then you know by doing that, it's available everywhere. And then with this implementation here, the authentication is just one place, this one component, and it works. It actually works. So anyway, you can also choose to go with this implementation as well. Nothing wrong with that. That's also for you to actually explore and see how, because if you see things in a different way, you get to really understand better, because you get to really understand better other than just seeing something in a single way. So yeah, and the backend actor setup is also kind of minimal on this one. Yeah, just like this. It's like the default backend setup that comes when you create a new canister, a new project. So in this project, you don't have to worry much about front end. Everything is implemented for you. What you just have to worry about is completing this project, this backend, and the front end that is already implemented for you will just work, right? Yeah, but it will be a good learning exercise. And then here you have nothing to implement on this project. It's just for you to learn, to see how things were done as you create your own implementation. So I hope that's clear. Any questions at this point? Our session is come to an end. Any questions? Gift you're still having problems with the screen. You'll probably watch the recording if you weren't seeing.
It's very much okay. I'll be able to watch the recording, and if possible, I'll be able to ask for the code
Okay.
on in the group.
So you still can't see the screen.
Yeah, I can't. I can't.
Hmm. That's it. Let me stop sharing and share again. Can you see it now? You can see it. Can you see it now, Gift? If you are speaking, your mic is muted. Anyway, looks like there are no questions at this point. So, yeah, let me first share the, the links to the repositories right away in this call, and then I'll also send in the group. So,
Did you give any quiz tonight?
nah, no, I didn't have any quiz tonight. It was just this the challenge to complete the auction canister. The challenge to complete the auction canister. I'm sure they'll be able to do it maybe. So I'll maybe by tomorrow also. So let me share with you guys, Mr.
Tomorrow
Spider.
we can have some quiz. You can give some prizes.
Okay, there'll be
Start
price.
some. Sure.
Okay, so that's fine. Yeah, there's already Josh. You already got a prize or something. So yeah, tomorrow we'll try to prepare some quizzes. So tomorrow there won't be nothing, no much of new concepts, just mentorship session, and we'll try to prepare some quizzes. And so I'll be ready for quizzes tomorrow. Okay, so
Then for the other teams, we are meeting tomorrow. We can confirm the time, eh?
okay, so last time, what time was the meeting? 2 p.m.
Was it 4 p.m.?
We want us to work with 4 p.m. Okay. 4 p.m. we can also do. It's a confidence we will be available at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I'll be available.
Okay.
Yeah, available.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
let's do
So
4
let's
p.m.
do 4 p.m. I hope the teams have heard that, but we'll still communicate with them on the platform as well. Thank you so much for the confirmation.
Okay. Okay, I'm hearing now. Okay. So the templates I sent, and then the auction. So yeah, those are the repositories for the examples and the auction example. So you guys get busy. Get busy, and once you finish those tasks with confidence, you know that like in the hackathon you'll be good. You won't struggle much. You won't struggle much. Okay, thank you guys. Since there are no questions, we can call it a day. Let's meet again tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so much.